Hola amigos, welcome to Singing Señorita, and it is officially summer, finally. So what I decided to do is start a new series, not on things that I teach necessarily, but on crafts that you could use either at home with your kids if you have them, or crafts that you can incorporate in your classroom throughout the year. So today's craft is one that I learned when I was in 6th grade exploratory Spanish. I have never forgotten it, and off and on I'll incorporate it into my classes when we have extra time, and that is un ojo de Dios, a God's eye. So what I'm going to do is walk you through how I teach my students to do it, and then I'm going to show you a bigger version that I've used for my students to do projects during testing season. So if that sounds good to you, just stick around. Here's what you're going to need to make an Ojo de Dios. So you'll need a pair of scissors, you'll need some popsicle sticks, and you'll need, I typically say, 2 colors of yarn. So typically I use smaller sticks in class because I can get a bulk amount. You can use this type, the smaller type. You can even use these types of sticks that would look really pretty with this. But the simplest way to teach my students to do it is with popsicle sticks. So the first thing you're going to do is they're going to put their popsicle sticks in an X or a cross, and then they're going to choose their first color. I'm going to choose the lighter of the 2. And the first thing you want to do is stabilize your sticks. So what I have them do is just go one direction, and you're just making the one side of the X, and then I have them go to the other direction, and this is where you want to straighten up, make sure that it's in the center. And then this is going to stabilize it because you're going to go in the opposite direction. So once you feel like the sticks are stabilized, I'm going to move that little piece right there, then you're going to start actually making the God's eye pattern. So you'll go over, and I tell my students if they're right hand, they should always end up in this corner. So you're going to go behind the first stick, and when you're coming around, instead of going over that stick, you're going to turn your sticks and go over the stick to the right. So you're going to end up here, go behind, and when you're coming up, turn so that you end up in that same spot and the next stick over. So behind and then turn. And if you have a little tag like this coming out, then just hide it. So in that same spot, around and turn, around and turn. So always ending up in this top corner here. And so after a while, you're going to begin to see the ojo forming in the middle. So here, if you can see, that is the diamond for your God's eye. So you're going to keep going like this. And one of the tips that I give my students, you want to make sure that you are always going to the outside of the last piece of yarn so that you don't get a very bubbly. Because if you're just kind of haphazard and just going over the middle, you're going to get a big lump in the middle. But if you want a nice, flat, and clear pattern to begin to show, you want to keep it very, very flat. So you want to always go to the outside of the last piece of yarn that you did, and it will keep the God's eye looking very, very clean and sharp, and it'll just be more aesthetically pleasing because it's not a big lump of yarn in the middle. Okay, so you'll get as much if you want of that first color. And then to change, this is the way that I found is easy to teach my students. You're going to cut off the first color, bring in the second color, and all students can do this. Just create a little knot. Oh, well, I say they can all do it, and then I lose it. So there, and it doesn't matter how big your tails are. Just make your knot. And then what I tell them to do, I'll say maybe they're not, they're going to keep going. But what you want to be careful to do is, like, hopefully your knot ends up in the back. But if it doesn't, like if it ends up like mine, then what I do is I hold the tails in the back. I don't cut them off yet, just because sometimes it unravels and you have to retie it. So I have them hold that, and then make sure that the knot is up there and the tails are in the back. You're going with your second color, and when you reach that same spot, just be careful that you go over that knot. So see, you can't even see where it is if you're careful every time you go over that spot to make sure that it is hidden, then it ends up being almost invisible. Even though I'm using a much darker color, you can't even see it. So I am going to quit talking for a moment and just speed through this. Okay, just for the fun of it, I'm going to stop and change colors again. Don't know why, I just want to complicate my life this morning. So I'm going to go through the same process, simple knot, tie it, see how it loosened up. So I'm just going to backtrack a little bit and go through, do the same thing. Oh, see, now this one ended up in the back, so that makes it a lot easier to hide because you don't really have to hide it so much when it's on the back side of your project. So I do want to go over that carefully so that there's no overlap of color, no gaps. So you keep going until you get almost near the end of your sticks. I don't go all the way to the end because I want them peeking out a little bit. Let me go one more round. And then here's how I tell them to tie it off, and it's the easiest way that I have found is I have them wrap around carefully that little top one, and then I have them do one loose one and pull the yarn through and just wiggle it. And usually, honestly, that is enough to keep it. But if they want to put a touch of glue there, they can, just to keep it in place, but it'll hang nicely just with that. So the next thing that I do is begin to cut. Now, if you want to make sure, sometimes I have them go through it again since we're going to be cutting that off, and just do a second one just to make sure that it's going to stay tight. So again, just wiggle it a little and make sure the top side still looks neat. And then we just begin to cut things off. So I'm going to cut that off. Then I'm going to take these that were back here, cut off where you can't see. So any excess, making sure I don't cut the knot, but don't want the whole thing to unravel. And any excess. And there you go. There's the God's eye. All right. You've done the small one, and now I'm going to show you what my students would do for a project. So I usually show the entire class how to do the small one, and then we pull in the mega Ojo de Dios. So these are dowels that I just got at Walmart in the craft section. Now I'm going to cheat. Instead of changing colors, I got yarn that changes colors. And of course, you need your scissors. So it's going to start the exact same way, but this is going to take them a while. This is why they get a graded project on this, because you're going to see. So I am ready. Got my coffee, got my snack, and we are just going to speed through this. So it'll start the same way. I did not prep, sorry guys, and find the end of the yarn. Where are you? I am not a yarn expert, guys. Might have to edit all this out. Where are you? Ah, found it. Woo! There you go. So the same way, usually on these, I tell the kids to put them together, and then because they are so bulky and big, I just tell them to go one direction. Ah! This takes a lot of space. Yeah, if you get too many of your kids doing these at one time. So typically this is part of my cultural projects series, and in times past my students would be taking tests, and then yet we have them for block scheduling, but we weren't allowed to do anything intense. So our department decided we were just going to do cultural projects, And then we gave them a list of cultural projects, which I can put in the description for you. And it's just a free resource, so you can see the kind of ideas that we went through, but this would be one of them, and a lot of students would choose this one. So all I did, of course, is pull it apart, and I am trying to stabilize these sticks. Now, it will take a lot more to stabilize these sticks than it did the little bitty popsicle sticks. So I'm having to go over it a lot, and sometimes, like this time, I'm gonna have to change directions because it is just feeling really wobbly. So I like to get that center set, because what will happen if your center is not set, then later on when they start making the project and it wiggles, then a whole side of it's going to be super loose, and they'll be so disappointed that they spent all of that work and then it's loose. So the way that I grade these, I grade it on how tight the pattern is. So again, I'm still stabilizing because it's still feeling kind of wiggly to me. All right, and when it feels like it's nice and tight, then you get to start that same pattern up in the corner, around the back, twist it over to the corner, around the back, twist it over, and that's the way they go. So I'm gonna put this on really fast because you don't want to sit and watch me do this for hours. Finally finished with my God's eye. You can see how giant these are. So it took me a while. So whether you want to do the giant version or just teach your students a small version, I hope that you have learned how much fun this can actually be. I didn't mind doing my big version at all. So if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel or give me a like. Leave me a comment if there's a certain craft that you would like to see me make. And I hope you have an awesome week. Adios!